Hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Jennifer, for the introduction and for inspiring us to ask big questions. And without further ado, I'm delighted to be presenting our paper called The Narrative AI Advantage with a question mark, because it's a question. Before I get started, I just wanted to say that this project would not have been possible without my incredible teammates who span academia, software engineering, and also our industry partner site. And I want to give a special shout out to my academic collaborators, Leo Busio, who is at Foster School of Business at the University of Washington, and then also Charles Ayubi, who is at ESSEC Business School. Generative AI has revolutionized the creative process, and what it has enabled is this fast, economical idea generation at scale. And so consequently, we have seen an influx of ideas come into accelerator programs, innovation hubs, and crowdsourcing platforms. But this new abundance of ideas is creating a new evaluation bottleneck, and that is human screening. And so screening is the process of quickly evaluating to filter out those low-quality ideas that don't meet this minimum threshold so that we can propel the most promising ideas to go forward in the further parts of our process, in the idea generation process, in the review process, in the hiring process. And simply, this human screening has just become cognitively overwhelming. And so our focus today is to ask this question: how can AI potentially standardize and augment the idea screening process? Generative AI provides both opportunities and challenges for idea screening. So on one hand, generative AI can significantly reduce that cognitive load during idea screening, and we've seen that using AI can help us with standardizing the evaluation of objective criteria. But on the other hand, there are challenges because subjective evaluations require our human judgment and context to really understand those nuances. And yet humans tend to over-rely on these AI recommendations, which can diminish our human insight. And so what we investigate in this paper is what we coin the human-AI oversight paradox. So we need humans to provide oversight for these subjective AI recommendations. But when we're given these AI recommendations, and especially the explanations that accompany them, humans disproportionately get influenced by them. And so it diminishes what we call as our critical human insight. So to test this paradox, we conducted a field experiment where we investigated the impact of AI assistance on human screening decisions by comparing the quality of the evaluations across different human-AI collaboration scenarios. So let me give you an example and illustrate these different kinds of AI assistance. So imagine that you are a VC investor that is evaluating business proposals, and you come across one for a new app for tracking patient data. And you can get two different forms of AI assistance. One of them is a black box AI that gives you a recommendation, and in this case it says, oh, you should fail this idea, you should just screen it out now. But it doesn't give you an explanation for why. The second version is the narrative AI version. And it says, okay, you should fail this proposal, so it gives you the same recommendation as the black box. But in addition to the recommendation, it gives you an explanation and says, well, the scalability is not addressed, and the financials are vague. So as a VC investor, you get either forms or both of these forms of AI assistance. So how does that affect your judgment? What we find is that while the AI explanations diminished independent human judgment, they simultaneously led to higher quality innovation selections than the human-only screening. And yet, the narrative justifications performed no better than just the black box recommendations alone. And so what this suggested is that having this rationale and these explanations don't necessarily improve our human judgment and our decision making. Let me give you an overview of our study. So we partnered with MIT Solve, which is a global entrepreneurship platform for social impact ideas, to test our approach of using AI assistance on this idea screening process with our 3 different experimental conditions, which included the human non-AI assisted condition and then 2 different forms of AI assistance, the black box AI with the recommendations and then the narrative AI with the recommendations and the explanations. MIT Solve was an ideal partner site for us because they conduct dozens of challenges, global challenges each year. And they provide funding and mentorship to the best global innovators behind these ideas. And so to walk you through our experimental design, what we did was we randomly selected a subset of 48 solutions from a global challenge, and we recruited 228 screeners, and we randomly assigned them to one of the 3 experimental conditions, the human only without the AI, and then 2 AI-assisted conditions, which was our black box and our narrative AI. And we had them conduct multiple screens, idea screens, for a total of 3,002 screening decisions, all within a 2.5-minute limit for each submission, because we really wanted to be able to replicate this high cognitive load scenario that screeners often find themselves in when they're faced with many, many ideas and limited attention and time to make a decision. After our screening sessions, we then had external expert judges rate the quality of these solutions for 3 dimensions of novelty, feasibility, and their impact. So what we did to facilitate the screening process was build a web app so that we could look at how AI assistance was helping or hindering our human screeners. And so just to walk you through it, this is our narrative AI condition, and you see the solution on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, we have the different criteria that the screeners used with the recommendation, as well as the explanations or the rationale for the criterion decision. The human decision maker retains the final decision, and so they can decide whether to advance or to screen out that solution and provide an explanation or a justification for why. Let's now turn to the results. So here you see the passing rate by the type of AI assistance. And so you see here that the AI passed around 42% of the submissions or the solutions. And now let's take a look at our 3 experimental conditions. Starting with the control, which is just our human non-AI assisted condition, you see that humans passed about 68% of the solutions, and this passing rate decreased with AI assistance, being the lowest when they were given the narrative AI with the recommendations and the explanations, which suggests that humans might be over-relying on these AI recommendations when they're given the rationale. We then conducted interviews to better understand the screeners' perspectives. And here you'll see 2 quotes from 2 of our screeners, screener A and B. Screener A says, well, I prefer to have the full information with the narratives than just the recommendation. And screener B seems to believe that having those narratives just corroborated their gut instinct. And so from these interviews, what we learned is that AI can be highly persuasive, and it can sway our human judgment sometimes in ways that we're not aware of. But there is a twist. And here are results that show the quality of the solutions that were screened in and out. And where blue is higher and lower is in yellow. And so in our human-only condition, you see that the screeners were screening in or passing higher quality solutions. But these differences get amplified when they're given AI assistance. But notice that there is no difference between having the narratives and just having the recommendation alone without the narratives, which seems to suggest that the increased transparency of having the explanations may not actually be augmenting our human judgment. So to conclude, our study offers 3 key insights for the future of human-AI collaboration. First, in terms of the human-AI oversight paradox, what our study highlights is that AI narratives can be persuasive and they can sway our human judgment, even though it is critical for humans to exercise and validate these AI outputs. Secondly, though, for these kinds of routine, high cognitive load tasks, actually, it may benefit us humans from having AI automation. And the reason for that is because it can allow us to focus our energy and our attention on more complex downstream processes, such as mentoring and coaching, that require our human judgment, that require social interactions, trust, and relationship development. And third, for organizations that are integrating AI into your workflow processes, what our study's findings suggest is that we should be designing these systems, these AI tools, to augment us rather than replace our human insight. And finally, one approach to do this is by partnering between academia and industry so that we can design these kinds of experiments, pilot and test and deploy these tools eventually. And here we are as a team earlier this year, a couple of weeks ago actually, where we worked together with MIT Solve to bring this AI screener to life. So thank you very much. That's all I had.